Explanation of the book Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Introduction to the book. Steal Like an Artist is a book that presents a new philosophy on how to develop creativity and achieve success in the artistic field or any other field that requires creative thinking. The book revolves around the idea that creativity is not the process of generating something from nothing, but rather a combination of influences and ideas that are combined and assembled in a unique way. The book is based on practical advice and based on the personal experiences of many artists and creatives throughout history, and aims to motivate readers to adopt a more flexible and creative approach to developing their work. 1. Creative theft: how to become creative by being influenced by others. The first main idea presented by the book is creative theft. Kleon discusses that the concept of theft in creativity does not mean literally stealing ideas, but rather taking advantage of the work of others and incorporating it into your own style. Theft here is inspired or taking advantage of the parts you like from the work of others and then using them to develop your own ideas. This is different from literal imitation, where modification and innovation are based on what you have learned from others. For example, many great artists like Picasso and Dali were inspired by the work of other artists or different cultures. Picasso himself said, "Genius steal, but they do not imitate." The goal here is not to copy, but to innovate by interacting with what already exists. 2. Find your sources of inspiration. Don't wait for inspiration, find it. The book suggests that creativity does not come only from amazing moments or sudden flashes, but rather from the constant search for sources of inspiration in everyday life. Kleon encourages you to search for inspiration in very small things that may not be apparent to many. Inspiration can come from books, movies, music, conversations you hear, or even places you visit. In the book, Kleon suggests that inspiration is not something that happens by chance, but rather is the result of constant exposure to different influences. If you are an artist, you may find your inspiration in literature. And if you are a writer, you may find new ideas in visual art or cinema. The key is to diversify your sources of inspiration so that you have many opportunities to reshape your ideas in a unique way. 3. Develop your personal style. Don't be afraid to imitate, but make it yours. The next point that the book makes is that every creative person starts by imitating the work of other artists in order to gain experience and basic skills. But in the long run, it becomes necessary for the person to start transforming the influences she has received from others into something of her own. Kleon emphasizes that every creative person needs to integrate the ideas she has received from others and transform them into something that expresses her personality and her own style. This process is part of developing a personal style. Many creative people start by imitating other artists and then over time develop their own style by integrating multiple ideas from different sources. This personal style is what sets you apart from others. 4. Do more than you think. Creativity through continuous work. Many people think that creativity is only when you have a great idea or complete inspiration. But Kleon calls for continuous work in the gradual development of ideas. It is clear that most good creative works do not come from just one idea, but from several experiences, attempts, and sometimes failure. And by continuing to work on your project, you improve and develop. You should know that creativity is a continuous process of trial and error. Continuous work means repetition and not being afraid of failure. The idea is to keep trying, experimenting, and innovating until you hone your skills and reach the best. 5. Set limits. Limitations can open up a horizon for creativity. Some may think that creativity requires absolute freedom, but the truth is that setting limits or boundaries can be a strong motivator for creativity. When you set certain limits for yourself, whether physical or intellectual, the chance of finding creative solutions to exceed these limits increases. An example of this is setting a specific time for yourself to work on a specific project, or using only limited tools in your work, which forces you to think more innovatively. These limits contribute to focusing ideas and limiting distraction, which opens up new horizons for creativity. 6. Don't be afraid of failure. Failure is part of the creative process. Austin Kleon points out that failure is an essential part of any creative's journey. No one should be afraid of failure or feel that creativity always equals success. Failure doesn't mean you're not creative or that you've failed as an artist. It's simply a learning experience that helps you improve your ideas and work. Many great artists have failed many times before achieving their successes. Tom Hanks, for example, failed in many acting experiences before becoming one of the most famous actors in the world. Don't look at failure as an end, but rather as a step toward improving yourself. 7. Minimize the secondary. Focus on what matters most. In a world full of busyness and distractions, it's important to learn how to prioritize. Kleon points out that distractions can be a major obstacle to creativity, and creatives should learn how to identify what's important and include it in their priorities. By prioritizing, you can allocate your time and energy to the things that help you achieve your creative goals faster and more effectively. Kleon advises simplifying your life and work to reduce distracting emotions. Row 8. Achievement is the most important. Look for results, not excuses. Ultimately, Kleon emphasizes the idea that achievement is the ultimate measure of creativity. Many people are busy planning, thinking, or trying to come up with the perfect idea, but the truth is that it is the actual work that shows results and proves your value as an artist. We know you have to start implementing your ideas and presenting your work to the world instead of waiting for the perfect conditions or getting completely inspired. Real results come from application and experimentation, not just from thinking. 9. Find your community. Connect with other creatives. Austin Kleon points out the importance of community in the creative process. Creative work is not an isolated process, but it can be more effective when you share your ideas with others. Community can be supportive and motivate you to continue developing, and it also gives you the opportunity to exchange ideas and learn from the experiences of others. Working with a group of creative people gives you access to new theories and different approaches to dealing with creative challenges. Conclusion. The book, Steal Like an Artist, is an invitation for creatives to embark on a creative journey by learning how to draw inspiration from different sources, then transform them into personal work, and do so through continuous work, experimentation, and learning from failure. Steal Like an Artist contains many stories and situations that Austin Kleon narrates to illustrate the concepts and ideas he discusses in the book. These stories are often from the lives of famous artists and other well-known people in the creative field. Here are some of the stories that are mentioned in the book. 1. The story of Picasso and creative stealing. In one chapter, Kleon talks about Pablo Picasso, the famous artist who is considered one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. Kleon mentions that Picasso was known for stealing ideas from other artists before developing his own style. Picasso once said, "Geniuses steal, but they do not imitate." This suggests that Picasso was inspired by others and reformulating their ideas in his own style. No, lessons learned. Picasso did not hesitate to steal or borrow ideas from artists who came before him. But what distinguishes his works is his ability to transform these ideas into something unique that expresses his personality and his own understanding of art. Here, Kleon wants to show that creativity does not mean starting from scratch, but rather a process of building on what you have learned from others. 2. The story of Steve Jobs and technology inspiration. Kleon also mentions an example from the world of technology, where he talks about Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. Jobs was known for being inspired by ideas from other companies, such as Xerox, which had invented the idea of the mouse and graphic displays. Jobs, instead of repeating the same idea, developed and improved it in an innovative way that made Apple one of the leading companies in the technological world. Lessons learned. Kleon uses the story of Jobs to illustrate the idea that creativity is not in creating something from nothing, but in transforming existing ideas into something unique. Jobs did not invent the mouse, but he turned it into an innovative product that was integrated into the user experience of Mac devices. 3. The story of Jack London and writing under pressure. Austin Kleon also tells the story of the writer Jack London, who was suffering from severe financial distress at the beginning of his writing career. One day, when he was having trouble writing his novel, he decided to set himself a strict goal: to write 1,000 words a day. This process led to the production of many of his famous novels, such as Call of the Wild. Lessons learned. The lesson here is to commit to production and not wait for inspiration to happen. Even in difficult circumstances, when you don't feel inspired, you can work on producing something new by setting a daily goal and continuing to write. 4. the story of the twins, the RZA and the GZA from Wu-Tang Clan. Kleon also mentions the twins RZA and GZA from the famous rap group Wu-Tang Clan as examples of how to generate ideas from multiple sources. At the beginning of their artistic career, the twins listened to a variety of music and tried to incorporate the different styles they were influenced by into their songs. RZA, the band's producer, knew how to mix classical, jazz, and hip-hop music, which made his music unique. Lessons learned. The lesson here is that you can be creative when you take influences from different places and incorporate them into your work in an innovative way. In RZA's case, creative theft was part of building his own style that has become so distinctive in the music industry. 5. Mike Montalian's story and painting with boundaries. Mike Montalian is an artist who was painting under a lot of pressure due to the restrictions placed on him. He needed to paint images in a certain way, and he discovered that these restrictions motivated him to think differently and come up with new solutions. Montalian was creative in using various techniques to paint complex scenes using limited tools. Lessons learned. The lesson here is that restrictions can be a catalyst for creativity rather than an obstacle. When you set certain limits for yourself in your artwork, you open up the space to think differently and come up with innovative solutions. 6. Pingu's story and developing your personal style. Kleon also refers to Pingu, who was known for developing his own unique writing style by imitating and combining different literary styles. He began writing stories in the style of his favorite writers, such as Ernest Hemingway and J.D. Salinger, but over time he began to develop his own style that became distinctive and widely known. Lessons learned. The message here is that innovation does not come suddenly, but rather requires time and effort in integrating different influences until you can reach your personal style that expresses you. Summary of the stories. The stories in the book repeat around one main idea, which is that creativity is the result of being inspired by others, then reformulating and integrating ideas in your own style. Kleon explains that great creators in various fields, whether in art, literature, or technology, have always benefited from previous experiences and then put their personal touches to produce something new and unique.